What if one thunderous goal, slammed past the reigning world champions, made a whole city register on a seismograph? What if a tiny island's flawless baseball run humbled the sport's richest superpowers and swept away a century of colonial sting? What if a single forehand from a 22-year-old toppled the world number two and sent an entire Caribbean nation into cardiac overdrive? Latin America is a laboratory for the impossible, especially when the opponent wears a different flag. Here, people wager rent money on underdogs, paint saints on crumbling walls, and whisper legends to children who drift to sleep with radios under their pillows. Tonight, we're diving into 10 jaw-dropping upsets where Latin American athletes knocked global giants to their knees and forced the planet to rethink who gets to win. Breathe in. The stories and the shocks start now. Crack open Latin America's boldest secrets, fact-checked, footnoted, and irresistible. I'm Arturo, and this is Latin Lora. From Latin America's history, to mysteries and true crime, to local legends, whispering Latin intrigue, every tale is triple verified in archives before it reaches your headphones. Hit subscribe. Fresh revelations drop every week, ready for your next campfire debate. The Mexican earthquake, World Cup 2018. The sun never really sets in Mexico City. Neon and car horns keep the night alive. But on June 17, 2018, everything paused. Bar stools stood empty, taco stands abandoned spatulas, and 3 generations huddled around battered televisions balanced on milk crates. Germany, the cold, clinical embodiment of football supremacy, waited in Moscow. Mexican fans had learned to fear the familiar heartbreak, concede early, falter late, clap politely, say, ya merito, quizá la próxima. Then Irving Chucky Lozano snatched the ball, ignited the jets in his calves, and tore down the left wing as if gravity had loosened its grip. 35 yards melted into a single breath. Shot. Net. Silence. Then an eruption that rattled apartment windows. Instruments at Mexico's Institute of Geological Studies trembled. Scientists confirmed a people's earthquake, triggered by synchronized jumps of joy. Children screamed so loud abuelas cried. In Los Angeles, where undocumented fathers watched from cramped apartments, tears streaked down cheeks weathered by construction dust. For 90 minutes, passports, border walls, and economic anxieties vanished. In their place, raw, defiant belief that destiny had finally turned its face south of the Rio Grande. Baseball's reverse remittance, World Baseball Classic 2013. Picture a sugarcane field at dawn in San Pedro de Macorís. Mist kisses the stalks, and somewhere a teenager swings an invisible bat, dreaming of Yankee Stadium lights. For decades, the Dominican Republic exported baseball talent northward. Sammy Sosa, Pedro Martinez, David Ortiz, yet the Dominican flag rarely draped a championship stage. In March 2013, that changed. The World Baseball Classic assembled nations the way the Olympics bundle hope. The United States arrived with million-dollar gloves. Japan carried the weight of back-to-back titles. The Netherlands flaunted a roster overflowing with MLB contracts. And the Dominican Republic, 8 straight wins, 0 defeats. Closer, Fernando Rodney cocked an imaginary arrow skyward after every save, as if signaling the island's ancestors to witness the redemption. Back home, motoconchos raced through side streets, horns screeching, families dancing beneath stray fireworks. Broadcasters called it una segunda independencia, a second independence, because prestige, for once, flowed south. Former cane cutters saw in that undefeated run a reversal of the island's traditional export. Instead of shipping raw talent out, the DR shipped a lesson back. Never underestimate a small land fortified by passion and poverty-sharpened hunger. The Coffee Country Revolution, World Cup 2014. Costa Rica, a nation smaller than West Virginia, drew the group of death in Brazil, Italy, England, Uruguay. 3 former champions with trophy cabinets worth more than Costa Rica's entire football budget. Odds makers gave La Salle a 0.3% chance to progress. In San Jose cafes, fans rolled their eyes, ordered second cappuccinos, prepared to cheer gallantly and exit quietly. Italy fell 1-0. England collapsed next. Uruguay, favored by history and biting intensity, folded on penalties. Suddenly, university lecture halls canceled midterms. The president signed an executive order pushing office hours so citizens could watch quarterfinals. Farmers in the Central Valley set up projectors between coffee rows. Every successful Keeler Nava save sent ripples through red soil famous for Arabica beans. Tourism spiked 9%, airlines added charter flights, and a wave of first-time passports flooded immigration offices. Sociologists coined it the the coffee country revolution, proof that a small state could punch so far above its weight that global commentators scrambled for maps. In the process, Costa Rica rewrote the sporting synonym for underdog, replacing pity with a new phrase, pura vida y puro fútbol. Silver against a red sky, Peru's volleyball glory, 1988. The 1980s carved bruises into Peru. Hyperinflation devoured paychecks, shining path bombs punctured city nights, and families whispered about disappearances. Amid the gloom, a group of women trained under flickering gym lights, perfecting the whiplash of a jump serve. Captain Cecilia Tate, all 5'9" of her, leaped like a salmon up a waterfall, hammering spikes with left-handed fury that belied her humble origin. Seoul, 1988. Peru took the first two sets off the Soviet Union, a team whose front line towered like granite cliffs. Radios crackled across Andean highlands. Villagers gathered in adobe kitchens, hearts in throats. The Soviets clawed back. Fifth set, 15-17. Defeat, yet the silver that draped those athletes glowed brighter than gold because it materialized during the country's darkest chapter. Mothers saw daughters who could fight giants. Politicians attempted, unsuccessfully, to hijack the victory for propaganda, but the people knew this belonged to them. Years later, Tate parlayed her fame into a congressional seat, arguing for women's rights legislation. Every vote she cast carried echoes of that Seoul court where sneakers squeaked like battle cries and a battered nation glimpsed its reflection, wounded but unbreakable. Argentina versus All Blacks 2020. Rugby in Argentina started as a gentleman's pastime in private Buenos Aires schools far from the barrios where Maradona ruled. Then came Los Pumas, scrappy, passionate, often heroic, rarely victorious against rugby royalty. When COVID-19 shut down the planet, New Zealand's All Blacks kept training in relative normalcy. Argentina's players, some lifted water jugs on apartment balconies, others tackled padded trees in provincial backyards. November 14th, 2020, in a near-empty stadium, Argentina met the Haka with tear-flecked eyes. Fly-half Nicolas Sanchez kicked, tackled, and scrambled his name into folklore, scoring every point in a 25-15 stunner. Across Buenos Aires, balconies rattled with songs once reserved for football. The hashtag Si Se Puede trended worldwide, borrowed from migrant rights marches, recycled into sporting catharsis. The upset shattered colonial rugby hierarchies and sent government officials scrambling to fund youth programs in Villas Miseria. Suddenly, rugby wasn't just for the polo-watching elite. It was a possibility for the kids selling empanadas at traffic lights, dreaming of greener pitches. 2 gold medals and a nation heals, Chile's Olympic miracle 2004. Chile's capital still echoes with the ghosts of dictatorship, names whispered, wounds half-healed. Into that brittle psyche walked Nicolas Massu and Fernando Gonzalez, tennis players known more for grit than grace. In Athens, they faced Germany's Kiefer and Schuttler. 4 match points stared them down. Chileans watching at dawn clenched fists around mate gourds, bracing for the familiar gut punch. But Massu volleyed like a man possessed. Gonzalez's forehand roared across the night. Gold, tears. 24 hours later, Massu, running on fumes and adrenaline, captured singles gold, collapsing onto the blue court as if he'd been shot from a cannon. In Santiago, horns blared through dawn mist and rivals hugged in the Plaza de Armas, forgetting party lines. Commentators called it the 48-hour ceasefire. For 2 luminous days, political scars faded behind the glow of twin medals. Street artists painted murals of the duo as 2 phoenixes rising from dictatorship's ashes, holding rackets instead of olive branches. Healing never sounded so loud. Gold in borrowed light, Monica Puig, Rio 2016. Puerto Rico in 2016 felt battered, crippling debt, crumbling infrastructure, uncertainty over its political future. Enter Monica Puig, ranked 34th, barely noticed by television analysts. On humid Rio nights, she carved a path through 4 top 10 opponents. Her secret, a fearless forehand and a steel resolve shaped by Caribbean grit. The final, against Angelique Kerber, tested nerves and nationalism. In the decisive set, Puig painted the sideline with a winner so pure, the crowd gasped before applauding. Across San Juan, church bells rang unprompted. Abuelas wept into flags rarely flown outside boxing bouts. Puerto Ricans on the mainland flooded social feeds with coqui frog emojis, reclamando identidad. For once, the island wasn't defined by hurricanes or fiscal oversight boards. It was defined by a 22-year-old swinging a Wilson racket like a machete through thick jungle vines of doubt. Sociologists later dubbed the phenomenon borrowed light, a moment when a colony briefly outshone the empire, reminding the world that a star is still a star, no matter who claims the sky. The Sword and the Arepa, Ruben Limardo, London 2012. Imagine delivering pizzas in Łódź, Poland, during winter so frigid, breath turns to glass, just to fund the sport you love. That was Ruben Limardo, born in Ciudad Bolívar, Venezuela, a city where sunlight bounces off the Orinoco River like molten gold. Fencing was alien there, no polished sal, no aristocratic lineage, just a boy captivated by the rhythm of steel. London, 2012. Limardo advanced through épée brackets like a phantom, parrying the favorites' noble pedigrees. Final touch, 15-10, and he flung his mask skyward. Venezuelans at home, split between pro and anti-government camps, shared one rare chorus of euphoria. For 6 minutes, talk radio hosts silenced political rants to replay the winning strike. Limardo toured the country afterward, brandishing his medal in barrios where electricity flickered. He told kids, if a pizza boy can fence his way to glory, you can carve any dream. For a nation drowning in oil politics, his triumph was a lifeline, a reminder that identity can be forged in places far beyond drilling rigs and presidential palaces. Toppling the NBA, Argentina's Golden Generation 2004. The United States invented the Dream Team in 1992, parading NBA icons like gods in sneakers. The world bowed until Argentina's Golden Generation matured. Manu Ginobili grew up in Bahia Blanca, a port town smelling of diesel and sea salt, practicing Eurosteps on cracked concrete. Luis Scola battled siblings for loose balls in El Barrio Cabalito. Athens, 2004, semifinal. The Americans entered with 3 consecutive Olympic golds. Argentina with fire. Ginobili slashed through defenses, Scola bullied in the paint. When the buzzer sounded, 89-81. Reporters groped for adjectives. American commentators used words like shocking and wake-up call. Back in Buenos Aires, crowds flooded Avenida 9 de Julio, banging pots usually reserved for economic protests. Beyond the jubilation, the wind carried sociological heft. In post-crisis Argentina, where unemployment hovered near 20%, the Golden Generation reframed national pride away from currency charts and IMF negotiations toward creativity, teamwork, and infinite hustle. That upset didn't just globalize the NBA. It reminded Argentines they could still set the rhythm instead of dancing to someone else's tune. Sea Wolves of Paris, Uruguay, Olympics 1924. Now we sail back a century to the birth of swagger on the Rio de la Plata. Uruguay, population 1.7 million, embarked on a 2-week sea voyage to France. Players trained on the deck of the SS Massilia, dribbling against rope railings while Atlantic waves pitched the ship like a seesaw. European newspapers mocked the amateurs from that cow-covered republic. June 9, 1924, Colombe's Stadium, Paris. José Leandro Andrade, nicknamed the Black Marvel, glided across the pitch with a grace Parisians likened to jazz. Uruguay's short-passing tango bewildered Switzerland in the final. Gold medals hung from necks still sunburned from transatlantic days. French fans hoisted Uruguayan players on shoulders, chanting Les Loups Marins, the Sea Wolves. The upset rippled beyond sport. It challenged colonial-era race myths, introduced Europe to Afro-Latin artistry, and convinced FIFA that football's future might belong as much to Montevideo as to London. When the squad returned home, thousands jammed Montevideo's port. Fireworks painted the sky. Children dribbled makeshift balls through tango dancing crowds. In those moments, a continent realized it could enchant the rest of the globe with its own melody. Why these upsets matter? Each upheaval we relived tonight delivered more than silverware. They rearranged cultural furniture, shifted power dynamics, and reminded Latin America and the world that grit can upstage grandeur. When Lozano's shot shook seismographs, it rattled centuries of imposed limits. When Dominican pitchers froze Japan's bats, colonial echoes cracked. When Costa Rican keepers turned giants into mortals, small nations gained a voice. When Peruvian women soared, gender expectations crumbled. When Los Pumas leveled the haka, class ceilings shattered. When Chile's rackets sang, wounds stitched themselves together. When Monica Puig screamed into Rio's humid night, an island forgot its debt. When Limardo lunged, pizza boxes became podiums. When Argentina humbled the NBA, a broken economy found new currency. When Uruguay danced in Paris, football learned to samba. These are not tales of luck, they're lectures in resilience. In every barrio, favela, and pueblo across Latin America, young athletes still lace up boots or pick up rackets believing they too can yank fate's reins. Upsets seed this belief. Upsets keep the dream awake. Remember their echo the next time you hear a whistle or the pop of a starter's gun. Giants fall, and when they do, the tremor carries far beyond the field. I am Arturo. This is Latin Lora. If these stories stirred your blood, hit that like button, share with a friend who loves an underdog, and let us know which miracle you want us to explore next. Subscribe and keep your heart tuned to the rhythm where history, sports, and passion collide. Until then, nunca dejen de soñar. Never stop dreaming.